Hello and welcome back to MindSpanse. I'm Craig and thank you for joining me today. We're starting a new series, super pumped up about it, on the connected universe. It's a great topic, one that I've spent a long time thinking about. And really quick story and before we get into it. But so it used to drive me crazy. Like, how is it possible, like the bee and the flower thing, right? How is it possible? How is it possible? And other developed species and whatnot. But bee and flower, and everyone's like, well, the bee knows that this flower smells like what it's supposed to smell like very specifically to that kind of bee, and then it goes in there and then it pollinates the flower. And I'm like how did that happen? I mean, even over however many years and however many generations, like, which came first? And I mean, certainly there were flowers before there were bees, and they had to get pollinated somehow, So anyway, I just found it just utterly intriguing as just to think about the fact that we have these species that have sort of developed together, even though they're separate. And one day it just dawned on me that maybe they're not separate. And I'll leave you with that thought while we take a stretch, and then we'll come back to it. But let's do that. Take our big stretch, breathe deep in through our nose, hold it for a second, allow your smile to come across your face. And then breathe out through your mouth. Relax your shoulders, relax your jaw. And we're good to go. All right. So it dawned on me that maybe they're not separate. And I was like, so that set me off in a whole new direction of thought. And I realized that when you take that thought approach, things make a lot more sense. If you think about our body, which is made of like 100 trillion cells or something, and half of them are not even ours, they're like bacterial cells. And then each of the cells has different subcells in them that do different jobs, that like build proteins and do stuff and replicate, and it's all very complicated. I don't really understand it. But it's pretty amazing to read about. And so we are a community in a body, and we believe that we're encapsulated, but just like, I mean, we can't necessarily go through, we can't go through that, but we can go through water, because water, the cells are are far enough apart so that we can go through them. And but the point of all this is that when we think about the connected universe, it's not so much that we're all connected, it's that we're all part of the same thing, right? So we're all swimming in the same pond. And just like if you were a cell in our body that was in your foot, the brain would be like 1 billion miles away, and yet it's all part of the same system, and it's all communicating, and they're all talking to each other, both electrically and chemically. And in a sense, it would be odd to think that our bodies are constructed that way and the world is not constructed that way, because we came out of the world. And that's what I started to think about, and I realized, like, I was sitting up on the roof of a building, my friend's building, at night, and we were just chilling out, and I was looking down at the streets, and I'm like, they look like computer board circuits, and like the way the streets are laid out and the lights and everything is very organized. And I started to think about how we recreate what's going on inside of us, just like we were created from something. We came out of an environment, right? And once you think about the world that way, you say that, and we do communicate, and we are getting better at communicating. Now we have electronic communications, and although we may be able to communicate other ways also. So when I think about this concept for your meditative practice, I think that there are a couple things we're going to talk about. One is we'll talk about this sort of so as it is above, so as it is below, right? So what we see above and below, if we look inside, it's everything outside is just like inside. Everything, the deeper we go, there's another particle and another particle, and the more we look at the sky, there's another universe and another universe and another universe. And it just goes on and on and on. And it's so important to understand, I think, because once you absorb it, it changes the way you think about your behavior, and it changes the way you think about other people and what your roles are. Why were you built a certain way? What is your role? Just like cells, right, are designed initially as stem cells, and they can turn into any kind of cell, but the body says, we need a brain cell, or we need a heart cell, and so you're going to be a heart cell. And once you become a heart cell, you're a heart cell, right? And it would not be odd to think that we or other things are born and say, hey, this person should be good at this, and we need some more people who are good at this to do this or whatever. And isn't that a cool way to think about things? That there is some structure, some organization that has this feedback mechanism, right? Like a body, right? Like that has some sort of intelligence to it. Wouldn't that make sense since we came out of that, right? So we're going to talk more about that. We're going to talk more about just breaking our own barrier, right? So one of the things is we're so caught up in this, right? Like this is us. And the reality is that's not true. I mean, our energy extends beyond our body, like beyond our skin. In other words, I mean, it helps our skeletal structure to be together, and we can walk and keep all these other pieces in working order, and now we can move. But basically, all this stuff that's going on inside of us, our energy and all that electricity and the speaking goes outside of us. And you can also feel energy that's outside of us. And so we're going to practice some exercises. Two things. One is honing your skill set to be more aware of what's going on in the energy that's around you, because it really does make a difference in everything that you do. As you quiet yourself and you get more attuned to this energy, it's really, really helpful as you navigate through the universe. And secondly, talking about how we perceive ourselves. So, like, if you think about where your mind is, where your thinking is, it's here, right? Because your brain's here. But it's sort of interesting to think about, does it have to be it's like a thought experiment, right? So can we have our brain operate in a different part of our body or outside of our body, and learning how to extend. Like, I think my foot, I know where my foot is or where my toe is or my hand is, but through this practice that we're going to study, you can start to extend that out and start to extend your mental footprint, right, of where your body exists, and keep extending it until it's everywhere. And in a sense, that's sort of what we're told through the ages, that everything is within. And then you say, how can everything be within if we shouldn't be looking outside for answers, because what we're seeing outside is also part of within. So we're not looking outside. It's all a reflection of our inside, and inside is everywhere. So I'm going to leave you with that thought, and lots of fun videos to come. I wish you an unbelievable day, and be patient with yourself, and be patient with the people around you. Be joyous and enjoy this journey, and like it if you like it, subscribe to the channel, and share with your friends. And have an awesome, awesome day. Thank you.